There was a point in the early 1970s when a mission meant to showcase human progress nearly turned into a slow, silent failure. Engineers watched helplessly as temperatures inside an orbiting station climbed to dangerous levels. Supplies began to degrade, critical materials warped, and the environment meant to sustain life threatened to destroy it. Time was not on their side. Every hour that passed tightened the margin between recovery and catastrophe. What ultimately saved that mission was not brute force engineering or a massive redesign. It was something deceptively simple, lightweight, precise, and based on a deep understanding of how energy actually behaves. That same principle, refined over decades, exists today in a form most people overlook. And understanding it gives you an edge, not just over heat, but over inefficiency itself. What makes this story worth your attention is not the drama of the crisis, but the lesson behind the solution. Because the same invisible force that nearly crippled a space station is working against you every day, especially if you live in a hot climate, and unless you understand how it operates, you will keep fighting a problem you cannot see, using tools that were never designed to solve it at the source. Most people assume heat seeps in through walls, roofs, or gaps in construction. That assumption feels logical. After all, those are the largest surfaces exposed to the outside world. But careful measurements tell a different story. A significant portion of unwanted heat enters through one specific element: glass. To understand why, you need to break sunlight into its components. It is not just brightness. It is a combination of ultraviolet radiation, visible light, and infrared energy. The last of these, infrared, is what carries most of the heat. When sunlight strikes a window, much of that infrared energy passes directly through. Once inside, it hits solid surfaces like floors and furniture, converting into heat that becomes trapped. Here is where physics plays a quiet but critical trick. Glass allows incoming solar energy to pass through more easily than it allows that heat to escape. The result is accumulation. Over time, that accumulation turns your interior into a contained heat reservoir. Your cooling systems are not just dealing with outside temperature. They're fighting energy that has already entered and refuses to leave. This is why a single window exposed to direct afternoon sun can have an outsized impact on indoor temperature. Multiply that by several windows, and the effect compounds rapidly. Without intervention, you are effectively allowing heat to build up faster than it can be removed. When that space station began overheating, traditional solutions were not viable. On Earth, insulation often relies on thickness and density. Heavy materials slow heat transfer. But in space, every additional kilogram is a cost. There was no option to wrap the station in bulky layers. Instead, engineers turned to a different principle: reflection rather than absorption. If heat could be stopped before it entered, there would be no need to manage it afterward. This required a material capable of interacting with energy at a microscopic level. The solution came in the form of an ultra-thin film coated with a metallic layer, so fine it barely altered the material's weight. This coating had a specific property. It reflected infrared radiation. Instead of allowing heat to penetrate and accumulate, it redirected that energy away. When deployed, the effect was immediate. Temperatures stabilized. Systems that were on the verge of failure returned to operational ranges. A crisis that seemed irreversible was resolved by understanding the nature of the problem rather than overpowering it. That moment is significant because it represents a shift in thinking. Instead of resisting heat after it arrives, the strategy became preventing it from entering at all. Technologies developed under pressure often find their way into civilian life. Over time, the concept of reflective thermal control was adapted for buildings. The goal remained the same: reduce heat gain by addressing the problem at its entry point. Modern window films are built on this foundation. Some use metallic layers similar to the original designs, while others rely on advanced ceramic particles that achieve the same effect without altering appearance. Regardless of the method, the objective is consistent: limit the amount of infrared energy that passes through glass. What makes this approach powerful is its efficiency. Instead of increasing cooling capacity or adding complexity, it reduces the workload from the beginning. Less heat entering means less energy required to maintain comfort. Despite its effectiveness, this solution is often overlooked. Many people default to larger, more expensive interventions because they are more visible or more heavily marketed. Yet the underlying principle remains unchanged from that moment in orbit. Control the energy before it becomes a problem. There is a pattern that repeats across industries. Solutions that are straightforward and inexpensive tend to receive less attention than those that involve significant investment. This is not always due to deliberate concealment. Often it is a matter of incentives. Large-scale upgrades, replacements, and systems generate ongoing revenue. They create industries around installation, maintenance, and upgrades. In contrast, a solution that can be implemented quickly and requires minimal follow-up does not fit that model. As a result, many people are introduced to options that address symptoms rather than causes. Cooling systems are upgraded. Energy consumption is managed. But the fundamental issue, how heat enters the space, is left unchanged. Understanding this dynamic allows you to step outside it. You focus on root causes, you reduce dependence on continuous intervention. That shift is where long-term efficiency begins. Consider two strategies. One involves replacing entire window systems with advanced materials designed to reduce heat transfer. These systems are effective, but they come with high upfront costs and long recovery periods. The other approach involves applying a film that modifies how existing windows interact with solar energy. The cost is significantly lower, and the impact can be immediate. While both aim to reduce heat gain, their paths to that goal are very different. The key difference lies in scale. One replaces infrastructure, the other enhances it. For many situations, enhancement provides a more practical balance between cost and benefit. This does not mean one method is universally better than the other. It means that understanding the mechanism of heat transfer allows you to choose the most efficient intervention for your specific context. Implementation matters. A poorly executed installation can undermine the benefits of even the best materials. The process begins with identifying which windows receive the most direct sunlight. Orientation plays a significant role, as exposure varies throughout the day. Selecting the right type of film is equally important. Some prioritize maximum heat rejection, while others balance light transmission and appearance. Matching these characteristics to your environment ensures that the result aligns with your needs. Preparation is where precision becomes critical. Any imperfection on the glass surface can affect adhesion and clarity. Taking the time to clean thoroughly and apply the film carefully determines whether the outcome meets expectations. Once installed, the material requires a period to settle and fully bond. During this time, patience is essential. The final result depends on allowing the process to complete without interference. At its core, this story is not just about managing heat. It is about recognizing how often problems are addressed at the wrong stage. When solutions focus on consequences rather than causes, effort increases while effectiveness decreases. The engineers who solved that crisis did not add more cooling power. They changed how energy interacted with the system. That shift reduced the need for additional intervention. In everyday life, the same principle applies. Whether dealing with energy use, resource management, or system efficiency, the most effective solutions often involve controlling inputs rather than compensating for outputs. This perspective transforms how you approach challenges. Instead of asking how to handle a problem after it appears, you begin asking how to prevent it from forming in the first place. Energy demand continues to rise and systems are pushed to their limits. Small changes in efficiency, when applied widely, can have significant collective impact. Reducing heat gain in individual spaces contributes to lowering overall demand. On a personal level, the benefits are immediate. Lower energy consumption translates to reduced costs. Improved comfort enhances daily living. Materials and furnishings last longer when protected from excessive heat and radiation. These outcomes are not theoretical. They are direct results of applying a principle that has already proven itself under far more extreme conditions. What happened in that orbiting station decades ago was a reminder that control over your environment does not always require complex systems. Sometimes it requires understanding the forces at play and using that knowledge strategically. When you take steps to limit how much heat enters your space, you are not just improving comfort. You are reducing reliance on continuous energy consumption. You are making your environment more stable and predictable. That level of control is what turns knowledge into advantage. If this deep dive gave you a new perspective on how small, precise solutions can outperform larger, more expensive ones, share it with someone who could benefit from it. Subscribe for more breakdowns that connect real historical events to practical strategies you can use today. Stay focused, stay informed, and keep building systems that work for you rather than against you.